In Chapter 5 of Proteinaholic, what did you mean by protein usurps the nutritional throne?
Yeah, so once protein got to this point where, the fats and the carb people are out there battling each other, all of a sudden, diet people like Atkins and people before him started saying, well, what if you just ate meat, protein, no carbs whatsoever? And Atkins was really more of a high protein diet. The current keto diet is a little bit different than Atkins because it's more of a high fat than high protein, but back then it was more high protein. And you do lose weight with that. You're eating a very high protein diet, you go into ketosis, you don't feel hungry during ketosis, you deplete your glycogen stores, which depletes water, which makes you lose weight. And so you lose weight, so you think it's successful, so you say, oh yeah, protein got me to lose weight. But it really wasn't protein that got you to lose weight. It was the ketosis diet, and it was mainly water weight, and it wasn't permanent.
In Chapter 6 of Proteinaholic, what did you mean by to Atkins and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, to Atkins and beyond, what I'm basically talking about there is once Atkins got in there, and he really pushed it, because what Atkins had that other people, before, these are arguments in scientific literature. Atkins really went to the public. I mean, he was I think he was a comedian in a prior part of his life, and was a good public speaker and had a good publicity machine. And he took this high protein, high fat, low carb diet and really took it to the public and really made it a big deal. And you could see at times, starts in the 70s, does great, starts petering out, redoes the book, redoes the marketing, and the hype goes back up, comes down, redoes the book. This has been the cycle, is this almost this marketing campaign behind it that has kept it so active in the public eye.
In Chapter 7 of Proteinaholic, what did you mean by the latest flavor of proteinaholism, paleo?
Yeah, so the funny thing is, Atkins came and then it went, there's been these versions of Atkins. When I say versions, it's really a version of the low carb hypothesis. Atkins didn't mind junk food so long as there weren't carbs in it. Pork rinds were fine on an Atkins diet. Paleo looked a little different. So paleo still is a predominantly low carb diet, but they don't want any processed food. They don't want any dairy. They would look down upon pork rinds. They want people to eat as Paleo Man ate. The problem is a paleo diet's not what Paleo Man ate. Paleo Man ate a distinctly non-Atkins diet. Yes, when there was a kill or there was animal around, they ate animal meat, but the vast majority of the time it was gathered food. We know from the work of Nathaniel Dominy that brain development was probably based on bulbs and tubers, which are basically onions and potatoes. Potatoes distinctly not on a paleo or a Atkins diet. But what paleo is doing is building on some of the concept of Atkins and then starting this somewhat mythology that this is what ancient man ate, and so that's therefore what we should eat.
In Chapter 8 of Proteinaholic, what did you mean by research, truth, and BS? How to speak science?
Yeah, in Chapter 8 of my book, what I really want to go through is how science is sometimes manipulated to confuse the public. There's a lot of research that gets funding from companies that have a direct interest in what the results are. Now, it's not that the research or the researchers are lying, but they do certain tricks that a layperson may not understand that could confuse someone into thinking that they've got a point. They might study a low-fat versus low-carb diet and say the low-carb diet did better, and you're like, oh, well, low-carb's the way to eat. Except the low-fat group didn't eat low-fat. They went from a 35% fat diet to a 30% fat diet, which is not a big change in the diet, and is not a big change in the amount of fat. Or they give the low-fat diet nothing but junk food. In one study, they were eating marshmallow fluff for lunch, whatever marshmallow fluff may be. And so, they were making little things. Some of the stuff they do is statistical. Like there was that study that came out that said that saturated fat does not lead to heart disease. As a layperson, well, that sounds good. Time magazine ran a whole article about that, about how butter's back because of this study. The study was heavily funded by industry, and they played a little statistical trick here. They said saturated fat does not cause heart disease, but They controlled for all other independent risk factors that cause heart disease. Well, one of those risk factors that cause heart disease is high cholesterol. So they controlled for cholesterol, meaning anybody with high cholesterol was taken out of the study. But saturated fat causes heart disease in part by raising cholesterol. So by taking these people out of the study, they've eliminated part of the effect of saturated fat that causes heart disease. So there's multiple things that can be done in designing a study that could confuse the lay public and certainly confuse the media that then run with these great clickbait headlines that say, oh, low carb is the way to go.